Hey guys, welcome back to What's New at the Drugstore week day 3. It is the final day, so if you missed day 1, it was all about Rimmel, eyeshadow palettes, face palettes, lip stuff, and in every single one of these videos I am doing demos and lip swatches so you can actually see it all in action. On Thursday we were talking about the L'Oreal Paradise Enchanted collection along with their Color We Shine lipsticks. There is a giveaway in there, so be sure to check that out. And today it is all about what's new from CoverGirl, which is just about everything. We have a foundation, concealer, primer, powder, mascara, eyeshadow palettes, face palettes, and lipsticks. So a lot to talk about. You will see it all in action today. And I feel like I had another point to get through besides the fact that this is going to be long. Oh, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who has been excited about this series, specifically the people who have said to me how much they enjoy the fact that I'm actually demoing the products, giving opinions, showing swatches, and just that you see the work that goes into this kind of video, and I really appreciate that. I mean, I love comments about like my hair looking good or having great brows or something like that. Always welcomed and appreciated, but when there's comments that see the work that go into it and can compare me to other videos that may not do the same thing that I'm doing, I really appreciate that, because that is exactly why I'm doing these things, is to be helpful and weigh pros and cons and hopefully give you at least my opinion, which is just one opinion about these products. So anyways, we've got enough to chat about, so let's go ahead and get started. So let's start off with the TruBlend line extensions, and they've kind of done a rebrand over all of their products, which I think everything looks a little bit more sharp, a lot more clean, a little bit more adult and almost luxury. It has that kind of minimalistic look to it, which I think looks really good. They have 3 different primers and they are under the name the TruBlend Base Business, and then there's 4 primers in there. So I have 3 of them here today, and I used the color neutralizing primer, which is green on kind of the outside of my face to help with some of the redness and acne scars that I have. I thought it did an okay job. This is not the kind of primer I would generally go for. I normally go for something mattifying or pore smoothing, but it seemed nice. But again, I use a spot concealer or color corrector. I don't generally reach for green products, but that's kind of my personal preference. What I did like, and I have been using, is the skin primer that's for pore minimizing. So I've only used this twice, but it feels really nice, not greasy, not silicone-y. Both of these have kind of a lotion feel. And then I haven't tried their other smoothing primer, but they have the illuminating, I have the illuminating primer here too, which seems nice, but again, I haven't really used this because in general I don't really reach for illuminating primers. But like I always say, if you have tried any of these things and have any experience with them, let me know down below. I think the most talked about part of this collection is their brand new foundation. I know I've gotten tons of reviews, and I will do a full review of this next week, but I definitely wanted to try it out a little bit because it is so hyped up. So this is the CoverGirl TruBlend Matte Made Foundation. It says it is comfort matte and transfer resistant. It has 12-hour wear, and I have always been a gigantic fan of CoverGirl foundations. I will link to all the reviews down below, but their matte BB cream, Ready Set Gorgeous, the 3-in-1, the Elixir, I think those are the only ones that I've tried, but I love every single one of them. I think their foundations are incredible. So I was really excited to hear about this one because it said it was matte, which is always enticing to me, but a comfort matte, which is totally the trend now over the past year. And what's the most exciting about this is that it launched with 40 different shades. So it launched with light, medium, tan, and deep, and there's an even distribution like in each of those ranges, which I think is great. They mentioned that at the launch that this was actually the first drugstore launch to come out with this many shades at once. So although there are other brands out there from the drugstore who do have large ranges, they're saying that they are the first ones to come out with a gigantic range, because if you're releasing someone, you want everybody to be able to try it. So I definitely appreciate them not releasing like 8 shades and then saying there's more to come. If you're super pale or deep skin, stay tuned in a year and a half. So definitely appreciate that. Comes in the typical packaging with CoverGirl. It has a pump on it. Again, looks quite sleek. I'm wearing the shade T30 today, which is Warm Honey. At first I thought I was going to be T60, then I tried T15, but I think T30 is definitely my favorite shade. It claims to have medium to full coverage, that is a natural or comfort matte, not tacky or tight on the skin. It's flexible, therefore kind of responds to facial movements, and it also claims to be transfer proof. So I actually had a few of you ask me about the actual transfer proof qualities of this foundation, so let me know if you'd like to see that in the review, because I know when I saw the commercial, they had it on the back of their hand and like rubbed it on a white shirt, and I was like, what? But at the same time, if the rest of the products on your face are not transfer proof, I don't feel like it can truly be like the foundation can be, but if you're wearing blush or bronzer or even powder, that portion could come off, if that makes sense. But I could test like the transfer proofness of it. But overall, so far, I've really been liking it. I find it really, really lightweight. I don't find it incredibly full coverage. I would say it's medium buildable for sure. Feels really good on the skin, doesn't have any crazy scent, and so far really, really impressed with it. I've been enjoying using it with a brush. I've also used it with a sponge, but I won't get into it too much today because I do want to cover all of that in the review. And in the review, I will also include face swatches, and by that time, I will also have a blog post with the swatch comparisons of not only the shades of the CoverGirl line, but some of the shades in comparison to like a MAC, a Maybelline, those kind of foundations, so you can more easily, hopefully, find your shade. So stay tuned for that coming up this week. Moving on to the rest of their complexion products, they have released the TruBlend Concealer, I believe it's called. TruBlend, it's Lit Concealer, and then I don't have this on my press sheet that they gave me from the event, so I don't know if this is necessarily new or just repackaged, but this is their pressed powder. So first of all, chatting about the concealers, as much as I love CoverGirl's face foundations, their concealers, they've never done it for me. However, I do like their Healthy Elixir concealer that they came out with last year. I think it's really nice and lightweight, kind of like a YSL Touche Claw, very, very light on the skin, doesn't have a ton of coverage. So when I got this, I was kind of like, really, this kind of packaging again, you know, is it gonna have much coverage? And unfortunately, I don't know my shades because, as I mentioned, I got this at the event, and I don't know if it's just my packaging or all of the packaging, but there's no shade names on here. What I will say is they have more, sorry, I'm just looking at my sheet here. They do have more shades of this concealer than they previously have, which I appreciate, but I gotta say I actually like this concealer. Can't say that I love it. Today is my first time using it, so kind of disclaimer on that. I honestly forgot about testing it, and I definitely like it more than I thought. I put on way too much product because I was expecting it to be super lightweight, and they don't claim for it to have any particular coverage. At least from what I can see, it says great coverage, which, I mean, great coverage to me means living up to whatever coverage that you say it has. You know, it has great coverage because they're claiming it to be medium or full or whatever it may be. I would have preferred to see something a little bit more full coverage and a little bit more matte, which is definitely in line with the way that concealers are going now, which, not to say that we need more of that, but I feel like that would have been a little bit of a better fit with the foundation that they were launching. That being said, this does feel okay. It's not my favorite. I did let it set under my eyes a little bit and it felt good. I'm gonna need to test it out a little bit more, but definitely I do like this one, and I do like the Healthy Elixir, especially in comparison to what they've released before. And then on the rest of my face, I used the TruBlend powder. So I used translucent honey shade 3 on my whole face, and then I used shade 2 on my under eyes. Really nice. I do enjoy CoverGirl powders. It is smooth. It doesn't have a ton of color. It just has a slight tint to it. It does say it's translucent, so this is quite a nice powder, but my favorite powder from them is still the Outlast All Day Stay Matte. No, what is it called? Mattifying Outlast All Day, whatever that one is. You know, I talk about it all the time. It is, it's so good. So that one's definitely my favorite, but this one is nice too. They have also released 4 face palettes, 2 of them that contain a blush, a bronzer, and a highlight, and then 2 that contain 3 different variations of highlights. And overall, I gotta say, I really, really like these. First, let's chat about the TruBlend, what are these called? Serving Sculpt palettes. So they have 2 different palettes. This one here is in the shade Rose Nights, which is for medium to deep skin tones, and then this one here is in Bloom Babe, which is for fair to light. And I'm sorry, in my close-up shots my lighting is a little bit bright, so hopefully you can see them a little more true to color here. So I actually, when I did my Benefit Hello Happy foundation review, if you're curious about the makeup that I was wearing, I was testing out a bunch of the CoverGirl there, so I was wearing this palette in addition to one of the eyeshadow palettes, so I will link that down below if you want to see some more of the products on my face. And I did find actually that the light palette worked for me. I'm actually wearing the blush and highlight from the light palette today. To me, they kind of mixed it up, in my opinion, the shades that are in here. And again, that's just my personal opinion 100%. But to me, something with this a little bit of depth and pink in it, although it is pink, it has a little bit of depth in it. And this coral shade is more flattering on a deeper skin tone than something that's more light and a little bit more cooler based, in my opinion. This bronzer is so warm. It is what I'm wearing on my face today. It is incredibly warm. This one is a little bit cooler, and I was able to make it work on my skin tone in that video that I linked down below. but this is definitely my favorite blush and bronzer highlight, and that's the highlight I'm wearing today. I love that it has some of that pink in there. I mean, I was able to get my hands on both of them from CoverGirl, but I do feel like if you have a deeper skin tone, I think that these are prettier, if that makes sense, but you may not be able to use that bronzer on your skin. But overall, the actual quality of the product, I think, is great. It is blendable. It's a little bit powdery, but it's not hard to blend. It's buildable. It's not patchy. The shimmers don't have any glitter in there. I think the highlight is absolutely gorgeous and has just enough pink in there. So really, really happy with these. I think they'd be great for travel as well. If you find all the colors in there flattering, it's just nice and compact and doesn't have any silly brushes in there. So let's move on to the highlighting palettes. I have the Super Stunner palettes. This one is in It's Lit for light to fair to light skin tones, and then this one is in Glowing Up, which is for medium to deep skin tones. So I've actually not used this one because it's not really for me, but this one I love. I especially love this first shade here because we've talked a lot about natural highlighters that are good for textured skin, and I definitely think this is one of them. It reminds me of kind of like the Fenty highlight, the more satin one, or a MAC Mineralized Skin Finish, in the sense that it's more of a satin than a metallic, no glitter. And I do use this in that video that I mentioned first so that you could see it in action, and then I doubled up on it with this shade here. And I think all these shades are gorgeous. I think they'd be great on deeper skin tones, no glitter, really, really beautiful highlights. There's enough difference between all three of them to kind of justify it. So overall, I think these face palettes are really great. There's powdery, they're a little bit powdery, but they don't look powdery or kind of flat on the skin. I think they have a really, really beautiful glow, and really, really impressed with all of this face stuff. I also should mention that I've actually seen this line, almost the entire line, which is very exciting and doesn't always happen, at Shoppers Drug Mart and Walmart here in Toronto, and it's always been on like a full freestanding display, sometimes in like the aisle next to the makeup. So especially at Shoppers Drug Mart, that's where I find a lot of new products end up, is like the aisle next to the kind of default makeup aisle, so the one that has like skincare. Sometimes things end up there on their own separate side display, so be sure to keep an eye out there. But let's move on to eyeshadow palettes. I always thought the TruNaked eyeshadow palettes that CoverGirl came out with 2 or 3 years ago, I thought they were some of the best drugstore eyeshadows, and they did not get talked about enough. I thought they were really, really good. I talked about the Jewels one because the gold in there made a great highlight, so really excited to see these out because they have matte eyeshadows, matte warm browns, warm shades. It's just so exciting. I gotta groove for it. I'm going crazy, I feel like. There's so much work that goes into these videos of me like thinking about all of my thoughts, filming the demo, filming the close-ups, finding the dupes, and then like I film like the lip swatches right before I film this, and like it just is so much of me being like and I feel like I'm losing my mind. So if I'm like spiraling a little bit, that's what's happening. The lip swatches just took me over the edge. If you can see like the light fading out of my eyes during the lip swatch portion of this video. But anyways, let's move on. There are 4 different eyeshadow palettes in here, and I think they're all great. 2 of them are scented, which the scented eyeshadow palette has made it into the drugstore. So we have the TruNaked Chocoholic palette, and in my mind, this didn't immediately scream a dupe to me for anything. I don't know, you tell me, but as I've mentioned in both of my other What's New at the Drugstore videos, I appreciate that. I appreciate drugstore brands pulling their own weight and creating palettes that are unique but still on trend and have thought to them. So this is the TruNaked Chocoholic palette, and you're getting 4 mattes in here and then some shimmers. I think it is really, really pretty. It does have that chocolate scent, and I think this is a pretty neutral palette. It's not particularly warm or cool in my opinion. I think it's got some great shades in there. You can go from day to night, as we love to say, and I think it's a great palette. It is my least favorite palette of the bunch just because it is neutral and it's not super warm, and you know me, but I do think it's a great palette. I think it's a great accompanying palette to other drugstore palettes, like one that I'm going to mention, because it has those great, you've got the cream shade, and then you've got 3 beautiful matte shades of brown. So absolutely appreciate that. This not being my favorite has nothing to do with the quality or anything like that. It's just my personal preference of what I would gravitate towards. And all of these palettes are a little bit powdery. They do have some fallout, so make note of that, but I do find if worn with an eyeshadow primer, I've had great wear time out of them, and the shades are buildable, blendable, really beautiful. Then they have the TruNaked Peach Punch palette, which is kind of nudging at the Too Faced Just Peachy. No, I did this last time. Let me tell you exactly what this is called. The Sweet Peach. So the original peach palette that they came out with. So I swatched them. At a glance, you may not be able to tell side by side, but it's kind of like, I mean, there's only how many? 8 shades in these palettes, and I think there's about 12 or 16 in the Too Faced one, so they kind of grabbed shades. I feel like the shades that they emulated were good. It's a beautiful palette. I think the peach is really nice, and I did use that in that demo that I've been mentioning, and that this is the eyeshadow that I was wearing in the Benefit Hello Happy review. So I really love this palette. I think it is really, really beautiful, but again, they didn't really come up with it, so I don't know that I can totally give them props for it, but I can give them props for the actual formulation. It feels really great. Beautiful shades in here. And it smells good. It's peachy, but like you really have to smell it. Like when I'm holding it out here, not smelling it, and you bring it in, and it does have that peachy scent. So I think it feels really good. I do really, really like the shades, and I like the way that they wear. And again, I really like the packaging on all of these palettes. It's quite sleek. The other dupe that's in here, let me find it, is the TruNaked Sunsets palette. So it's pretty clear what they're going for here. This is trying to be the modern Renaissance, which in my opinion is a little overdone. You know, everybody's kind of doing it. And again, shades are great. I love the shades that are in here, but they didn't really come up with them. You know, I don't know. I just think that, like, I can't get into it. I've talked about it a million times over. But as a standalone palette, if I can say that, I think it is a great palette. I think the shades are great. I think that it's definitely really beautiful, and I know that I like it because I know that I like Modern Renaissance. And if you were lusting after the Modern Renaissance and you hadn't picked up the Wet n Wild dupe, and for some reason you wanted to try the CoverGirl one, I recommend it. I have traveled with the Wet n Wild Modern Renaissance dupe. I'll link that video down below because I don't want to travel with my Modern Renaissance and have that break and shatter, and these are actually a little bit smaller. So that is one thing I do like these palettes for, is if you are a fan of like warmer tones and you do already kind of have those original palettes, but you want to travel with something that's still similar to the original palettes that you had, but you don't want to risk breaking them, or you want something a little bit smaller, that's a great option for these. In this, comparing to the Wet n Wild one, I haven't actually done that. I've only compared it to the Modern Renaissance, but it's very similar to the Modern Renaissance. The Wet n Wild one is very similar to the Modern Renaissance. So yeah, I think that they're all great palettes. And then the final palette that they've come out with is the TruNaked Dazed. And again, I don't think that this is a dupe for anything. This is, I'm wearing this on my eyes today. I'm wearing the Chocoholic, the Dazed, and the Sunset palette on my eyes today, and I will have a demo for you. I love this palette so much. I love it, I love it, I love it. I think the shades are absolutely beautiful. I think if you're not a huge color person, but you want to dabble, this is the perfect way to do it. You're getting a great rainbow of shades in here. I wish that they had just done like a red here instead of having 2 purples and committed to the rainbow, or a matte brown, because again, with the shimmery peach blushes that show up at the drugstore with the gold in them, like the NARS Orgasm dupes, I think that a sparkly black is overdone in my opinion. So I would have loved to either see a good matte kind of transition-y crease shade, or just a full-on red and really commit to the rainbow theme. Definitely going to be breaking this out for Pride next weekend, and I was really, really impressed with the shades that are in here. It doesn't have any mattes, but I think that's okay, because we all kind of have a lot of mattes. So, and like if you did have something like this, actually the blue is a little bit matte in here, but if you have something like this and you want to make it work, you could reach for a bronzer that you have if you're traveling with just a palette like this. That's something I do all the time. So I do really, really like this palette. I think the shimmers are gorgeous and the colors are too. So let's go ahead now and I will show you how I got this eye look. So the first shade that I used is out of the Chocoholic palette. I just wanted to take that kind of medium brown and run it through my crease. And then next I went for the Sunset palette and took the kind of reddy brown shade in there, which is actually one of my favorite shades out of the Modern Renaissance, and put that on the outer corner and through the crease a little bit, warmed it up, and ran both of those on my waterline, or not sorry, my waterline, my lower lash line. Don't put eyeshadows in your eyes, my friends. And then next, I really wanted to grab for the yellow and the orange out of the Dazed palette because I was so curious to see how those performed on the eyes, and so impressed. So I put down a little extra eyeshadow primer just out of curiosity, patted on the orange with my finger, and it is beautiful. It is so sunsetty, so gorgeous. It has a beautiful impact and it's not too pale. I think actually this Dazed palette would be incredible on deeper skin. And then on my inner corner, I took the yellow shade and really just kind of packed that on the inner third of my eye along with the inner portion of my eyes. Onto my lashes, CoverGirl has launched an eyelash primer, and then they've also launched a mascara. I talked about this mascara in a previous video, which I will link to down below if you want to see it without a primer, but today I used, nope, that's not the primer, this is the CoverGirl Lash Blast Amplify Primer. I find the brush on this to be similar to the original Lash Blast. I think it was in the orange tube, and this has jojoba oil, coconut oil in there, and it's also supposed to, of course, help amplify the lashes. I actually picked this up at Walmart last night, and I thought that it was really good. I think it was about $8.99 at Walmart when I bought it. I think it's nice. I still need to play around with it a little bit more, but I did really like them in combination with the Flourish Lash Blast Mascara. This has like papaya and coconut and maybe avocado oils in there, so it's supposed to be a little bit more nourishing on the lashes, and I definitely find this to be an incredibly lengthening mascara. I think Flourish makes total sense for the name because it's the kind of thing that you can pile on a ton. Like, I piled on so much. At first, it doesn't really feel that impactful to me, but when you really get it on there, it does not clump at all. Like, you can go and go and go and go, and my lashes look super long, really kind of fluttery. They don't look hard or clumped together, and I especially like this on the lower lash line as well because it does have that really lengthening effect, and I hate when my lower lash line gets too clumpy. And I also have had just a good experience with wearing this. I don't have any issues with flaking or clumping. It's not too wet. It has a really kind of spiky brush, and I think that's what really gets in there and kind of lengthens it. So I've had a pretty good experience with the majority of CoverGirl mascaras. I think I still might like the Peacock one the most, but this is a really good one too, and so far so good with the lash primer. Lastly, we have new lipsticks. They have released the Exhibitionist line of lipsticks, and let me check my notes here. There are a ton. So there's 12 metallic shades, 9 demi matte, and 27 cream shades. So there's a shade in there for everybody. I have a selection of each of them, but like I've done in the past videos, I will put a little asterisk next to the shades that I really like. In general, so far, super happy with the demi matte and the cream lipsticks. I find the cream lipsticks, one of them I'm wearing right now, it's just the most perfect nude. Like, when I was putting it on, you can see me be like, oh my god, because it's just like, it's just so perfect. It's the most perfect nude. I wanted to wear like a more bold lipstick, but I was like, but it's perfect. This one is in the shade Tempting Toffee. It is quite a thin formula, so I'm not thinking it's gonna have a ton of wear time, but if you blot it down or throw on a lip liner, that will help. But I don't really mind. As long as it doesn't wear off super patchy, I don't mind touching up. That's with some of the lighter shades. The deeper shades, of course, are gonna last a little bit longer, so really liking the cream shades. But what I wanna say, when I got this, I was a little bit nervous, and I opened it up and I was like, let me smell them, because the previous CoverGirl lipsticks, the one that were in kind of the taupey metallic tube and the Katy Kat mattes, those were just so scented. I had a bunch of the Katy Kat mattes, and I only held on to like the purple one, the black one, and the one that was called Sphinx, because I love Sphinx cats and I want a Sphinx cat someday when my boyfriend lets me. So I held on to those, but the scent is so scented. It's one of those like scents that's like, it sticks in your mouth and you can just taste it the whole time you're wearing it. So I was like, please don't be scented, and they're not. So they have a slight lipstickiness, but it is nothing like the previous lipsticks, which I am so excited about. I don't know if they're listening to us or if they decided to take it out or what happened, but I'm so glad that it does not exist in this line because there are some incredible shades. I am blown away. But the cream formula I think is beautiful, and I love this shade so much. And then for the demi matte formula, I really like those as well. Again, they're a little bit thin and waxy, but I don't think it's waxy in a bad way, but that's kind of the only way I could think to describe it. It's thin and waxy, but not in a bad way. Like, you're just gonna have to trust me. I really like these. I think they're gonna be good. Again, I don't think they're gonna be the most long wearing lipstick because they aren't a true matte, but they do feel really comfortable because not everybody is looking for something that's gonna necessarily last all day. You want a great color, great pigmentation. It's not too scented. It comes in a ton of shades. So really happy with those. I don't know that I can say the same for the metallics. So I was excited to see the metallics in this line, and the first that you're gonna see on me are horrific. There's a silver, there's a white, and that's not for my skin tone, you know? Like, I'm not built for silver lipstick. I think they are super fun, however, if you have a more fair skin tone, I think that those could potentially look cool. What I don't like about them is how gritty they feel. They have glitter in there, they feel gritty, they feel like what you kind of expect from a metallic lipstick. Oh, I have another point I wanna make. In the creams that I swatched, so the shade Ravishing Rose is a cream, and I do appreciate that they put the color on the bottom. It is very, very true to the color that comes out for the most part, but what I will say is this shade specifically, Ravishing Rose, says it's a cream, but in my opinion, this is a metallic. It has a frost in there, and it looks pink, but then when I put it on my lips, it has such a strong frost that it almost looks like metallic-y silver, if that makes sense. So just be mindful when you're looking at the bottom, for the creams anyways, that some of them may have some metallic in them. I only have 4 of the creams, and this is the only one I can kind of attest to, but just keep that in mind if you are kind of just grabbing at shades. But for the metallics, they come in the silver tube as opposed to the black tube. So the first ones were like really messy on me. I was like, this is super bad. It's not gonna be good. Then it started to take a turn as they started to get deeper, which kind of surprised me. I was expecting them to be super patchy, but when I got to shades, the 2 shades that I really like out of the metallics are Steel, which is a deep purple, and the blue I think is so cool because it has this denim look, it has this beautiful shine to it, and I felt like these were smoother than the others that I tried. The first that I tried almost felt like a lip exfoliator, the amount of like glitter that was in there, but these are super smooth and are more metallic to me. To me, metallic doesn't mean glitter necessarily, so I even found like I had glitter on my chin after wiping it out. It was staying on my lips, but these 2 I thought were so pretty. So it's kind of going to be obviously up to you what shades you get, but for me, in my experience of all the shades that I just tried, these 2 were the prettiest to me, which are Steel and Deeper. I just feel like I'm kind of all over the place, and I apologize for that if I am. But I'm trying to get a lot of information out there, and hopefully it's not going too poorly. So anyways, I'm gonna stop talking if you're not confused enough, and let's get into the lip swatches. Those are my ramblings of all the new stuff that is new from CoverGirl. Overall, super freaking impressed. I think they did an incredible job with this launch. Standouts for me would be the face palettes, the eye palettes, the demi matte and cream lipsticks, and the foundation. For sure. Super impressed with all of that. Stay tuned for more on the foundation coming up this week, and be sure to enter my giveaway, which I will list down below. And thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to connect with me, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at SamanthaJaneYT, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!